The whip caught me across the shoulders before I heard it coming. I bit down on my scream, tasting blood where my teeth cut into my cheek. Screaming made it worse. Screaming made Overseer Derek smile. "Clumsy bitch," he spat, circling me where I knelt on the cold stone. "Third plate you've dropped this week. Maybe if you had less meat on your bones, you'd be faster." I had no meat on my bones. I could count every rib. But I kept my head down and said nothing. The whip came again. Then again. I counted the strikes. 7, 8, 9. At 10, he stopped. My shift was wet, blood or sweat. I couldn't tell anymore. "Get back to work," he said. "And if the king's chambers aren't spotless by dawn, we'll do this again." He left. I stayed on my knees, breathing through the pain, waiting for my hands to stop shaking enough to stand. This was my life. This had always been my life. The sub-basement of the fortress. The lowest level, where the problem slaves were kept. The ones who'd tried to run or fought back, or were simply unlucky enough to be noticed by the wrong person. I'd been down here for 3 years. Before that, the laundry. Before that, the stables. 20 years of moving through the fortress like a ghost, always in the spaces the nobles never saw. The king's private chambers were on the top floor of the North Tower. I only cleaned them when he was away. At war, at council meetings in other territories, anywhere but here. The schedule was carefully managed. Vornek, the steward, made sure of it. "The king," he'd told me once, his hand fisted in my hair, "does not see refuse. You go when he's gone. You leave before he returns. If you're ever in his sight, I'll sell you to the river clans, and they'll make what I do to you look like mercy." I believed him. So I worked in the dark. I moved in the shadows. I made myself small, invisible, nothing. The scar on my collarbone burned where the whip had caught it. It always burned after a beating. That strange, raised mark the slavers had given me as a child. They'd tried to brand me with their symbol, 3 slashes for unclaimed property, but something had gone wrong. The brand had twisted, leaving a shape that looked almost like a crescent moon tangled with something else. I touched it through my torn shift, feeling the ridges of old burn tissue. "You're nothing," I told myself. "You've always been nothing." The mantra kept me alive, kept me sane. I forced myself to stand and picked up the cleaning supplies. The king's chambers wouldn't clean themselves. I made it up the back stairs, moving carefully so the blood wouldn't drip on the stone. Servants who left stains got another 10 lashes. The North Tower was silent, empty. The king had been gone for 5 days, another border skirmish with the river clans. He wouldn't return until tomorrow at the earliest. I had tonight. I slipped into his chambers, locked the door behind me, and let myself breathe. This room was my secret sanctuary, the only place in the entire fortress where I felt almost safe, because I was the only one allowed inside when he was gone. For a few stolen hours, I could pretend this beautiful space was mine. I cleaned slowly, carefully. Fresh linens on the bed. Gods, the sheets were softer than anything I'd ever touched. Swept the hearth. Polished the already gleaming furniture. Filled the basin with water from the cistern. And then, because I was alone and in pain and so desperately tired, I did what I always did. I stole a moment. I locked the bathing room door, stripped off my ruined shift, and sank into the copper tub. The water wasn't hot. I couldn't light the fire, someone would notice. But it was clean, and that was luxury enough. I scrubbed the blood from my back, biting back whimpers as soap found the open cuts. My hands were calloused and scarred. My arms were too thin. My collarbone jutted out sharp enough to cast shadows. I looked like what I was, a broken thing, held together by spite and survival. But here, in this room, with moonlight coming through the window and the smell of cedar and leather surrounding me, I could close my eyes and pretend. Pretend I was the kind of person who belonged in places like this. Pretend I had a name, a history, a future. Pretend I was human. I must have dozed off because I woke to the sound of a door opening. The outer door. Terror slammed into me like a fist. He's back early. I lunged out of the tub, water sloshing everywhere, and grabbed for my shift with shaking hands. It was ruined, blood-stained, obscene. He couldn't see me like... The bathing room door rattled. Is someone in there? A man's voice. Deep. Tired, edged with steel. The king. No, 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 no. I said, is someone in there? My voice came out broken. Yes, Your Majesty, I'm cleaning, I'll be out, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Silence. Then, open the door. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I pulled the shift over my head, not caring that it was still damp with blood and bath water, and crossed to the door on unsteady legs. I opened it. And for the first time in 20 years, I looked directly at the Alpha King. He was younger than I'd imagined. Maybe 30. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes the color of winter storms. Pale gray, almost silver. A fresh cut slashed across his cheekbone, still bleeding. His armor was dented, mud-splattered. He looked exhausted, and he was staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. His nostrils flared. His eyes went wide, pupils dilating. His gaze traveled from my face down to my collarbone, where the shift had slipped, exposing the scar. He went very, very still. What, he said slowly, is your name? I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't have one, Your Majesty. Something flashed across his face. Shock, then fury, then something I couldn't identify. How long have you been here? He asked. 20 years, Your Majesty. His jaw tightened. Where? Everywhere, Your Majesty. The laundry, the stables, the kitchens, I swallowed. The sub-basement, for the last 3 years. The sub-basement. He repeated it like the words didn't make sense. Who put you there? Overseer Derek, Your Majesty, on Steward Vornek's orders. Why? Because I'd fought back. Because I'd scratched an overseer's face when he'd cornered me in the laundry. Because I'd refused to be easy. But I couldn't say that. So I said nothing. The king took a step closer. I flinched back instinctively, and he froze. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly. Everyone hurts me, I thought. But I stayed silent. His gaze dropped to my shift, and I saw the moment he noticed the blood seeping through the fabric at my shoulders. His expression went cold. Dangerously cold. Turn around, he said. Your Majesty, That wasn't a request. I turned. I heard his sharp inhale. Felt the air shift as he moved closer. Who did this to you? His voice was soft. That terrified me more than shouting would have. Overseer Derek, Your Majesty. Why? I dropped a plate. Silence, long and heavy. Then, how many times has he whipped you? Too many to count. But I tried. 37 times, Your Majesty. That I remember. 37. He sounded like he was speaking from very far away. And Vornek knows about this. Overseer Derek reports to Steward Vornek, Your Majesty. Yes. More silence. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The king was staring at my back, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, his whole body vibrating with barely restrained violence. Your Majesty? I whispered. Should I go? His eyes snapped to mine. No, stay exactly where you are. He crossed to a cabinet, pulled out a small wooden box, and returned. Sit, he said, gesturing to the edge of the bed. I stared at him. Slaves didn't sit on beds, especially not the king's bed. Sit, he repeated. Please. That please broke something in me. I sat. He knelt behind me. The Alpha King knelt for me, and I felt his fingers brush the edge of my shift. "May I?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He peeled the fabric away from the wounds carefully, and I heard his breathing go harsh when he saw the full extent of the damage. "This is going to hurt," he said. "I'm sorry." Then he began cleaning the cuts. His hands were gentle. Impossibly gentle. He worked in silence, applying something that stung like fire but smelled like herbs and honey. "Healing salve," I realized distantly. "The scar on your collarbone," he said finally. "Where did you get it?" "The slavers gave it to me, Your Majesty. When I was very young. I don't remember it." "What were they trying to brand you with?" 3 slashes, for unclaimed property." His hands stilled. "That's not what it looks like." "I know, Your Majesty. Something went wrong. The brand changed." "Changed how?" I pulled the shift down slightly so he could see it fully. "Like this." He moved around to kneel, in front of me, and his hand came up, hovering just above the scar without touching. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, voice strange. "No, Your Majesty." "It's a crest, a noble house crest." His eyes lifted to mine, and they were blazing with something fierce and terrible. "Moonfire. A house that burned 20 years ago. A house that had one surviving member, an infant daughter who was stolen the night of the fire." My heart stopped. "I was 6 years old," he continued. "I followed my father to the burning keep. I tried to help. I found a little baby girl on a balcony, surrounded by smoke and flames. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She just laid there, wrapped in her blankets, silent and brave. Well, as brave as a baby could be. It was like she refused to let the fire win." His throat worked. "I took her hand. I promised I would get her out. I promised I would keep her safe. No. By the time I reached the courtyard, slavers had breached the perimeter. My father fought them, died fighting them. And the girl..." His voice cracked. "The girl was gone, taken. For 20 years I thought she was dead or lost somewhere I couldn't reach. I searched. I raided slave caravans. I hunted every rumor. I never stopped looking." He leaned closer, and I could smell blood and leather and something wild. "You were here," he breathed. "Right here, under my roof, under my protection, and I didn't see you." "I was hidden," I whispered. "Vornek made sure you never saw me." "Why?" His hands clenched on his knees. "Why would he do that?" "I don't know, Your Majesty." But I was starting to suspect. If I was Moonfire's daughter, if I was nobility, I wasn't just a slave. I was leverage, a secret, a weapon. The king stood abruptly and began pacing, his movements sharp with barely controlled rage. He stopped pacing and looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt seen. "Your name," he said, "was Karina. Karina of Moonfire. You were the heir to one of the most powerful houses in the realm." He crossed back to me, dropped to one knee so we were eye level. "And you are my fated mate." The world tilted. "No," I said. "That's not. I'm a slave. I'm nothing. You are mine," he said, and his voice resonated with something that made my bones ache. "You have been mine since the moment you were born. Our houses were bound together by magic older than this kingdom. I have been searching for you for 20 years, and now that I've found you..." His hand came up, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. "Now that I've found you, I will burn this entire fortress to the ground before I let anyone hurt you again." Tears spilled down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them. "I don't remember being Karina," I choked out. "I don't know how to be her." "Then I'll teach you," he said. "We'll figure it out together. But first..." His expression went cold again. "First, I'm going to deal with the men who did this to you." He stood and turned toward the door. "Wait," I said. Your Majesty, wait. He looked back. What's your name? I asked. I've been here 20 years and I don't know your name. Something soft moved through his expression. Morpheus, he said. My name is Morpheus. Morpheus, I repeated. The name felt right on my tongue. Familiar somehow. Say it again, he said, voice rough. Morpheus. He closed his eyes briefly, like the sound caused him physical pain. Stay here, he said. Lock the door. Don't let anyone in but me. I'll return before dawn. Where are you going? His smile was terrifying. To wake up Vornek and Derek. We're going to have a conversation about what happens to men who touch what's mine. He left. I sat on the edge of his bed, wearing a ruined shift, my back screaming with pain, my mind spinning with impossible words. Karina. Moonfire. Fated mate. Outside I heard shouting, then screaming. The Alpha King was keeping his promise, and for the first time in 20 years, I let myself hope. Chapter 2. The Reckoning. I didn't sleep. I sat on Morpheus's bed, wrapped in one of his cloaks because I was cold and it smelled like safety, and listened to the fortress wake up to chaos. Doors slamming, guards running, someone crying. Dawn was just beginning to gray the windows when the door opened. Morpheus entered, and my breath caught. He was covered in blood. Not his own, I realized. His wounds from the battle had been cleaned and bandaged. This blood was fresh, splattered across his face, his hands, his armor. He saw me staring and stopped. I didn't kill them, he said quietly. Though I wanted to. Gods, I wanted to. What did you do? I whispered. Derek is in the dungeon. 20 lashes for every scar on your back. He'll feel every strike you felt. And then he'll rot there until I decide if death is too merciful. His jaw tightened. Vornek is also in the dungeon, but his punishment will be more public. Public. There will be a trial, he said. Every slave he bought, sold, or abused will have the chance to testify. Every crime will be laid out in the open, and then the people he hurt will decide his fate. Justice. He was offering justice. What about me? I asked. What about you? What happens to me now? He crossed the room slowly, giving me time to bolt if I wanted. When he reached the bed, he knelt again, like he had before. That depends on what you want, he said. If you want to leave, I'll give you coin, an escort, and safe passage anywhere in my territory. You'll never have to see me or this place again. My chest tightened. And if I stay? If you stay, he said, you'll never be a slave again. You'll have your own chambers, your own attendants, your own life. You'll be Lady Karina of Moonfire under my protection. He paused. And eventually, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, we'll explore what it means that you're my mate. I don't know what that means, I admitted. It means, he said carefully, that we're bound. By magic. By fate. By something older than either of us. It means that when I'm near you, everything in me says mine. It means that when you're hurt, I feel it like my own pain. It means... He stopped, jaw working. It means that I will never force you. I will never use the bond to compel you. I will never take what you don't freely give. But it also means that I can't let you go. Not completely. I'll always want to protect you. Always want to keep you close. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn the right to call you mine in truth, not just in magic. The words settled into my bones like truth. I'll stay, I said, for now. Relief broke across his face like sunrise. Then let's start with this. He stood and offered his hand. Come, there are people I want you to meet. I took his hand, and the moment our skin touched, heat flared between us. Not painful, just intense. Like every nerve ending suddenly woke up and paid attention. His pupils dilated. His breathing hitched. The bond, he said roughly. You feel it? Yes. It's going to get stronger, he warned. The more time we spend together, the more it'll pull. If it becomes too much, tell me. I'll back off. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He led me out of his chambers, down corridors I'd never walked in daylight, past servants who stopped and stared. I heard the whispers following us. Is that... She was in the sub-basement? The king is holding her hand. Moonfire. She's Moonfire. We stopped at a door in the east wing. Morpheus knocked. Enter, a woman's voice called. Inside, an older woman sat by the fire, silver hair braided down her back, eyes so pale they looked almost white. She looked up as we entered, and her face went still. Selena, Morpheus said, I need you to verify something. The woman, Selena, stood slowly, her gaze fixed on me. You found her? I found her, he agreed. She was here the entire time. Selena's expression flickered with something like grief. Of course she was. She approached me, moving like water, and held out her hand. May I, child? I glanced at Morpheus. He nodded. I let her take my hand. The moment our skin touched, power rushed through me. Not painful, but overwhelming, like being caught in a current I couldn't fight. Selena gasped. Oh, you poor thing. What is it? Morpheus asked sharply. The bond, Selena breathed. It's been trying to reach her for years, decades. But the trauma. She looked at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. The trauma she endured suppressed it, built walls around her soul to protect her from feeling too much. If she'd felt the bond while she was still enslaved, it would have driven her mad. My knees went weak. Morpheus caught me, his arm around my waist. So she didn't feel anything, he asked. Until now? She felt it, Selena said, but distantly, like an echo, dreams maybe, a pull she couldn't explain. She squeezed my hand gently. The bond was trying to save you, to lead you to him, but you were trapped. I thought about the dreams I'd had over the years. The ones where I was warm and safe and someone was holding me. The ones I'd always dismissed as fantasy. What happens now? I asked. Now, Selena said, the bond will strengthen. You'll feel drawn to him, comforted by his presence, anxious when he's away. It will be intense, especially at first. She looked between us. But the bond is not a chain. It does not steal your will. It simply makes you compatible. Like two pieces of a puzzle. You still have to choose to fit together. And if I don't choose? I asked. Morpheus's arm tightened around me, but his voice was steady. Then I'll respect that. The bond will hurt, for both of us. But I won't force it. Selena smiled sadly. The bond is not as simple as choice, Your Majesty. But you are right that force will only break it further. She released my hand and stepped back. Give her time. Give her space. Let her learn who she is before you. Ask her to be yours. Morpheus nodded. I will. We left Selena's chambers, and I felt the weight of the conversation settling over me. I have to attend to some matters, Morpheus said as we walked. The border, the council, Vornek's arrest has created complications, but I've arranged for an attendant to help you settle in. An attendant, I repeated. Her name is Naren. She's kind, patient. If you don't like her, tell me and I'll find someone else. We stopped at another door. He opened it. Inside was the most beautiful room I'd ever seen, larger than his chambers. A massive bed piled with furs and silk. A fireplace already lit. Windows overlooking gardens I'd only glimpsed from the kitchen yard. A bathing room with a copper tub twice the size of the one I'd used last night. This is yours, Morpheus said, for as long as you want it. A young woman stepped forward, dark-skinned, bright-eyed, smiling. Lady Karina, she said curtsying. I'm Naren. It's an honor to serve you. I stared at her. You don't have to bow to me. I want to, she said simply. You're Moonfire. You're a survivor. And you're the king's mate. That's huge. I looked at Morpheus helplessly. He smiled, soft and almost shy. I'll leave you to settle in. Naren will help you with anything you need. Food, clothes, rest, whatever you want. He turned to go. Morpheus, I said. He stopped. Thank you, I whispered, for coming back early, for seeing me. His expression went intense. I will always see you, Karina. Always. He left. Naren closed the door and turned to me, her smile widening. Okay, she said. First things first. Bath, food, and then we burn that shift because you are never wearing something like that again. I looked down at the blood-stained, ruined fabric. Okay, I said. And for the first time in 20 years, I let someone take care of me. Chapter 3. Learning to Stand. The bath was heaven and hell. Heaven because the water was hot, scented with lavender and something that smelled like roses. Because Naren washed my hair with gentle hands and didn't flinch when she saw the scars covering my body. Hell because feeling clean made me realize how dirty I'd been for so long. How much of me had just accepted the filth as normal. I cried in the bath. Naren didn't say anything, just kept washing my hair, humming softly. When I finally climbed out, she wrapped me in the softest towel I'd ever touched and led me to a mirror. I barely recognized myself. Without the grime and blood, I looked young, fragile. My dark hair fell in waves past my shoulders. My eyes were too large in my thin face. The scar on my collarbone stood out stark and silver against pale skin. You're beautiful, Naren said quietly. I wasn't, but I didn't argue. She dressed me in a simple gown, dark green, soft fabric that didn't scratch or bind, slippers lined with fur, a cloak in case I got cold. Then she brought food. So much food. Bread with butter. Roasted meat. Vegetables swimming in sauce. Fruit I didn't have names for. Wine. I stared at the tray, stomach cramping with hunger and fear. Start small, Naren said gently. Your body isn't used to this much. Bread first, then we'll see. I ate the bread, then more bread, then some meat. My stomach hurt, but it was a good hurt. Tell me about the king, I said as I ate. Naren settled into a chair across from me. What do you want to know? Everything. She laughed. That's a lot. He became alpha at 6 years old, after his father died in the Moonfire fire. The council tried to control him. He was just a child, but he was stubborn, smart. He learned quickly. By the time he was 16, he'd consolidated power and begun rooting out corruption. She paused. He's been at war for most of his life. The river clans test our borders constantly. Other packs challenge him because he's young. He doesn't trust easily, and he doesn't forgive betrayal. Is he cruel? I asked. No, Naren said immediately. He's hard. He has to be. But he's fair. He cares about his people, maybe too much. He takes every loss personally. She leaned forward. The searching for you, that wasn't just duty. He was obsessed. The council begged him to stop, to focus on the kingdom, but he wouldn't. He raided dozens of slave caravans, freed hundreds of people, always looking for one specific girl. Me, I whispered. You, she agreed. And now that he's found you, every servant in this fortress is talking about it. About how he carried you out of the sub-basement himself. About how he beat Derek unconscious. About how he looked at you like you were the sun. My face heated. He did, Naren said, grinning. I heard it from 3 different guards. Apparently he was intense. The bond pulsed in my chest, warm and insistent. The bond scares me, I admitted. Naren's smile faded. I can understand that. It's powerful. And after what you've been through. She hesitated. Can I tell you something? Yes. My mother was in a mated bond, with my father. She told me once that the bond didn't make her love him. It just made her notice him, made her want to know him. The love, the real love, came from choice, from time, from him proving every day that he was worth her trust. Did it work? I asked. They were married for 40 years, Naren said softly. And when he died, she said the bond breaking hurt less than losing him, because the bond was magic. But the love was theirs. I thought about that. About magic versus choice. About Morpheus kneeling in front of me, promising not to force anything. What if I can't do this? I whispered. What if I'm too broken? Naren reached across and took my hand. Then you heal first, and if he's worth anything, he'll wait. I spent the next 3 days in my chambers, learning how to exist without fear. It was harder than I'd expected. Every time someone knocked on the door, I flinched. Every time Naren brought food, I had to fight the urge to hide it for later. Every time I looked at the bed, I couldn't quite believe I was allowed to sleep there. Morpheus visited once a day, always at the same time, always knocking first. The visits were short. He'd ask how I was, if I needed anything, if Naren was treating me well. He never touched me, never pushed, never stayed longer than 10 minutes. But every time he left, the bond ached. On the 3rd day, he came with a book. I thought you might be bored, he said, holding it out. Naren mentioned you'd been looking at the shelves in here. I took the book carefully. It was bound in leather, worn soft with age. The title read, Chronicles of the 5 Houses. Moonfire is in there, he said, if you want to learn about your family. Thank you, I said. He nodded and turned to leave. Wait, I said. He stopped, looking back. Can you stay? Just for a few minutes? Something bright and fierce flashed across his face. Yes. He sat in the chair by the fire. I sat on the edge of the bed, the book in my lap. Will you read it to me? I asked. His brows rose. You can't read? Shame heated my cheeks. I never learned. Then I'll teach you, he said immediately. But for now, yes, I'll read. He read to me about Moonfire, about a house known for protection magic and healing, about alphas who were fierce in battle and gentle with their people, about a line that had stood for 300 years before it burned. His voice was deep and steady, and I found myself relaxing bit by bit, until I was lying back against the pillows, eyes half closed. You're falling asleep, he said, amused. Sorry, I mumbled. Don't be, you're safe, sleep if you want. I did want, but I also didn't want him to leave. Morpheus? Yes? The bond, does it hurt you when you're not near me? Silence. Then, yes. I'm sorry. Don't be. He said, echoing my words. It's not your fault. And it's bearable. I've survived worse. Like what? Like 20 years of thinking you were dead, he said quietly. I opened my eyes. He was looking at me with an expression that made my chest ache. I'm not dead, I said. No, he agreed. You're here, and you're alive. And that's enough. The rest. He stood, carefully. The rest we'll figure out in time. He left. I clutched the book to my chest and let the bond hum between us, a thread of warmth in the dark. On the 4th day, Vornek's trial began. Naren tried to keep me away from it, but I insisted. I needed to see this. The trial was held in the courtyard, the same place I'd been whipped countless times. Now it was filled with people. Servants, slaves, nobles, guards. Everyone had come to watch. Vornek stood in the center, chained to a post, his fine clothes gone, replaced with rough prisoner's garb. Morpheus stood opposite him, regal and cold. I stayed at the back, hood pulled up, trying to be invisible, but Morpheus's gaze found me immediately. Our eyes met across the crowd, and the bond flared so bright I gasped. He smiled, just slightly, then turned back to Vornek. "Let's begin," he said. One by one, people came forward to testify. An older man spoke of his son, sold to the river clans and never seen again. A young woman described being beaten until she lost a pregnancy. A boy, maybe 10, sobbed as he recounted watching his mother dragged away in chains. The testimonies went on for hours. And through it all, Vornek stood silent, face carefully blank, until they called me. "Karina of Moonfire," the herald announced. Every head turned. I pushed back my hood and walked forward, spine straight, chin up. Vornek's mask cracked when he saw me. Fear flashed across his face, raw and real. "Good." I stopped in front of Morpheus. He looked at me, silently asking if I was sure. I nodded. He stepped aside. I faced Vornek. "You knew who I was," I said. My voice carried clearly across the courtyard. "From the moment I arrived, you saw the scar. You knew it was Moonfire." Vornek's lips pressed into a thin line. "You kept me hidden," I continued. "Never in the king's sight. Always in the darkest corners of the fortress. And when I got too visible, when people started noticing the strange scar on the girl in the laundry, you sent me to the sub-basement." "You were a problem slave," Vornek said. "You fought. You disobeyed." "I fought back when Overseer Derek tried to rape me in the storage room," I said flatly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "I disobeyed when you ordered me to carry water up 6 flights of stairs with a broken wrist," I continued. "I was a problem because I refused to die quietly." Morpheus's hands had curled into fists at his sides. The air around him seemed to thicken with barely restrained violence. "But that's not why you hid me," I said. "You hid me because I was valuable. Because if the king ever discovered Moonfire's heir was in his basement, you'd lose your leverage with the river clans." Vornek's face went gray. "That's right," I said softly. "I know about the river clans, about the payments, about the slavers you hired to raid Moonfire in the first place. You thought if you kept me hidden, kept me broken, you could sell me back to them when the price was high enough." "I have no idea what you're talking about," Vornek said, but his voice shook. Morpheus stepped forward, holding up a leather-bound ledger. "This says differently." He opened it, reading aloud. "Payment from River Clan Sayer, 500 gold. Purpose: continued suppression of Moonfire heir. Location: North Keep Fortress, sub-basement level 3. The crowd erupted. Morpheus's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "You didn't just hide her, you sold information about her, to our enemies, while taking my coin to supposedly serve me." "I kept her alive!" Vornek shouted desperately. "The river clans wanted her dead. I protected her." "You tortured her," Morpheus said, voice soft and lethal. "For 20 years. You call that protection?" I stepped closer to Vornek, so close I could see the sweat beading on his forehead. "I call it slavery," I said. "I call it treason. I call it unforgivable." "You're nothing," Vornek hissed, mask finally shattering. "You're a broken slave with delusions of grandeur. Even if you are Moonfire's heir, you're too damaged to rule. Too weak. Too—" The bond exploded. Power surged through me, hot and bright and utterly overwhelming. My vision went silver. My hands ignited, not with fire, but with light. Pure, searing moonfire. The scar on my collarbone blazed, and Vornek screamed. The light wrapped around him like chains, burning not his flesh but something deeper. His guilt, his crimes, every life he'd destroyed reflected back at him in agonizing clarity. "Karina!" Morpheus's voice cut through the power. "Karina, stop!" I couldn't. The magic had taken control, pouring out of me in waves. Hands closed around my wrists, warm, steady, familiar. Morpheus. "Come back," he murmured, his forehead pressing against mine. "Come back to me. You're safe. You've done enough." The power flickered, faded, retreated back into my bones. I sagged, and he caught me, holding me upright. "I've got you," he breathed. "Always." Vornek collapsed, sobbing. The Moonfire had left no physical marks, but he'd felt every moment of suffering he'd inflicted, lived it, drowned in it. "Guilty," Morpheus said, his voice ringing across the courtyard. "Vornek of Northkeep is found guilty of treason, conspiracy with enemy forces, and crimes against his people. The sentence is death, to be carried out at dawn." He turned, still holding me, and addressed the crowd. "Let it be known," he said, "that Karina of Moonfire stands under my protection. She is nobility, she is my mate, and anyone who harms her answers to me and to the power you just witnessed." The crowd dropped to their knees. Every single person. Even the nobles. "All hail Lady Karina!" someone shouted. "All hail Moonfire returned!" Another voice joined. The chant spread, growing louder, until the entire courtyard was roaring. I looked up at Morpheus. His eyes were bright, fierce, proud. I couldn't finish the sentence. "You awakened your magic," he said, "in front of everyone. There's no denying what you are now." "I don't know how to control it." "Then I'll help you learn." His thumb brushed my cheek. "Together, remember? Together." The word felt less terrifying than it had a few days ago. "Take me inside," I whispered. "Please, I can't breathe out here." He lifted me into his arms like I weighed nothing and carried me through the parting crowd, back into the fortress. Chapter 4. The Bond Deepens. He took me to his chambers, not mine. I didn't question it. I was shaking too hard to do anything but cling to him. He set me on his bed, the same bed I'd cleaned 100 times, and wrapped me in furs. "Stay here," he said. "I'll be right back." He disappeared into the bathing room. I heard water running. When he returned, he held out his hand. "Come." I let him lead me to the bath. The tub was full, steaming, scented with something calming. "Do you need help?" he asked, not looking at me. "Or should I leave?" "Stay," I said. The word came out before I could think about it. "Please." His throat worked. "Turn around." I turned. His fingers found the laces of my dress, loosening them with careful precision. The fabric slipped from my shoulders, pooling at my feet. I heard his sharp inhale. "You're back," he said hoarsely. "The scars." He was seeing all of them now. Whip marks, burns, the puckered tissue from wounds that had healed badly. "I'm sorry," he said, voice breaking. "Gods, Karina, I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault," I said. "It is." His hand hovered over my shoulder, not quite touching. "It happened under my roof, under my rule. That makes it my responsibility." I turned to face him. He immediately averted his eyes, giving me privacy even now. "Look at me," I said. "Karina." "Look at me, Morpheus." He did. His eyes traveled over me. The too thin frame, the jutting bones, the scars covering my torso and arms. The evidence of 20 years written on my skin. "I survived," I said. "That's what matters. Not what was done to me, but what I did with it. I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I'm strong enough to face you without shame." His eyes shone. "You're incredible." "I'm angry," I corrected, "and tired and scared, but I'm here." "Then let me take care of you," he said. "Please, let me do this one thing." I nodded and stepped into the bath. The water was perfect. I sank into it with a sigh. Morpheus knelt beside the tub, sleeves rolled up, and picked up a cloth. He washed me. Not like a servant. Not like a lover. Like someone trying to cleanse away 20 years of pain with gentle hands and careful touches. He washed my hair, working through the tangles. He washed my arms, my back, my feet. He never lingered. Never took advantage. When he finished, he wrapped me in a towel and carried me back to the bed. "Sleep," he said. "I'll be in the chair if you need me." "Morpheus?" I caught his hand before he could pull away. "Why are you being so patient with me?" He looked at our joined hands. Because you deserve patience. Because the bond doesn't give me the right to rush you. And because... He met my eyes. Because I've spent 20 years imagining finding you. And now that I have, I'm terrified of doing something that makes you leave. I'm not leaving, I said. You say that now, he said quietly. But when you're healed, when you remember who you are and what you're capable of, you might feel differently. No, I said. I won't. How do you know? Because the bond isn't one-sided, I said. I feel it too. I feel you. And The words stuck in my throat. I want to try, to see if this is real. His hand tightened around mine. It's real, he said roughly. Gods, Karina, it's so real it hurts. Then get in the bed, I said. He went very still. What? Get in the bed, hold me, let me feel you, not as king and subject, not as captor and captive, just as us. Karina, I'm not asking you to take me, I said. I'm asking you to hold me. Can you do that? His breathing was harsh. Yes. He kicked off his boots and climbed into the bed beside me, staying on top of the furs. I was under them, wrapped in a towel, covered and safe. He opened his arms. I moved into them. The bond sang. Heat flooded through me. Not painful, not frightening, just perfect. Like every piece of me had been waiting for this moment. His arms closed around me, strong and sure. His chin rested on top of my head. Is this okay? He murmured. Yes, I breathed. We lay there in silence, breathing in sync, the bond humming contentedly between us. Morpheus? I said after a while. Tell me about the day Moonfire burned. Tell me about the promise. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I was 6. My father was Alpha. When the distress beacon went up from Moonfire Keep, he took most of the pack and rode out immediately. He told me to stay. To be safe. His chest rose and fell against my back. I didn't listen. I followed on foot. By the time I got there, the keep was an inferno. People were running, screaming. My father was fighting slavers at the gate. His arms tightened. I should have stayed back. I should have listened, but I saw smoke coming from the east tower, and I heard a baby crying, so I climbed. I closed my eyes, trying to imagine it. A 6-year-old boy climbing a burning building. You were on the balcony, he continued. A few months, or maybe a year old, wearing a white nightgown covered in soot. Your face was streaked with tears, but you weren't screaming. You were just there, waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know. Maybe for death. Maybe for rescue. But when you saw me, you held out your arms, like you trusted me, like you knew I'd come. My chest ached. I took your hand, he said. I told you I'd get you out. I told you I'd keep you safe, I promised. His voice cracked. And then the slavers broke through. My father fought them, died buying me time to run. I tried to hold on to you, but there were too many of them. They ripped you from my arms and vanished into the smoke. Morpheus. I screamed for you, he said. I searched the ruins for hours, but you were gone. And I became Alpha at 6 years old with blood on my hands and a broken promise in my heart. I turned in his arms so I could see his face. Tears tracked down his cheeks. You were 6, I said. You were a child. I made a promise. And you kept it, I said fiercely. You searched for 20 years. You found me. You're keeping me safe right now. The promise isn't broken, Morpheus. It's just late. He laughed, broken and wet. Late. Gods. I reached up and cupped his face, wiping away his tears with my thumbs. I don't remember that night, I said, but I remember dreams. Dreams of being warm and safe and held. Dreams of someone promising me they'd come back. I leaned closer. I think somehow I remembered you. His eyes closed. Karina. Kiss me, I whispered. His eyes flew open. What? Kiss me, please. I need to know if this is the bond or if it's real. It's real, he said roughly. The bond doesn't create feelings. It just amplifies them. Then kiss me and let me feel it. He moved slowly, giving me every chance to change my mind. His hand came up to cradle the back of my head. His eyes searched mine. Are you sure? He whispered. Yes. He kissed me. Soft, gentle, reverent. The bond exploded between us, but it wasn't just magic. It was him, the taste of him, salt and something dark, the feel of his mouth on mine, the way his hand trembled against my skull like he was afraid I'd break. I kissed him back, clumsy and inexperienced, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat pooling in my belly. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Real, I said. Real, he agreed. I settled back against his chest, content. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said, we heal, we train, we prepare. Because the river clans are going to come for us, and when they do, we'll face them together. Together? I repeated. Together, he confirmed. Outside, the sun set. Inside, the Alpha King and his Moonfire mate lay tangled in each other, building something new from the ashes of the past. And for the first time in 20 years, I let myself believe in a future. Chapter 5. War comes. 3 weeks later, the river clans attacked. They came at dawn, 50 warriors in black cloaks, moving fast through the snow. They breached the east gate with magic, some kind of explosive that turned solid iron into molten slag. I woke to alarms and Morpheus bolting out of bed, already reaching for his sword. Stay here, he ordered. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. No, I said, throwing off the furs. I'm coming with you. Karina, I'm not hiding while you fight, I said. I have power. Let me use it. His jaw clenched. You've only been training for 3 weeks. Then it's a good thing I'm a fast learner. We stared at each other, the bond crackling between us. Fine, he said, but you stay close to me, understood? Understood. We ran, down corridors filled with smoke and guards and screaming servants, out into the courtyard where the real battle was happening. The River Clan warriors were brutal, efficient. They moved like a pack, coordinating attacks, targeting weaknesses, and at their center stood a woman in black armor, her face marked with ritual scars. Morpheus Dravarin, she called out, voice carrying across the chaos. We've come for the Moonfire girl. Give her to us and we'll leave. Never, Morpheus snarled. The woman smiled. Then you'll die protecting her. How noble. She raised her hand, and the warriors surged forward. Morpheus met them with savage grace, his sword singing through the air. Guards flanked him, fighting with desperate courage. But there were too many. I felt the moment the battle turned. Felt Morpheus's exhaustion through the bond. Felt his fear, not for himself but for me. Enough. Heat built in my chest. The Moonfire woke, eager and wild. I raised my hands. Karina, don't! Morpheus shouted. You're not ready. Too late. The Moonfire exploded from my palms in a wave of silver-white light. It swept across the courtyard like a living thing, wrapping around River Clan warriors and lifting them off their feet. They screamed. The light didn't burn. It didn't kill. It paralyzed. Froze them in place, muscles locked, unable to move. One by one, they dropped. When the light faded, 30 warriors lay unconscious on the snow. The woman in black armor stared at me, eyes wide with shock. Impossible, she breathed. The Moonfire air is supposed to be weak, broken. I survived, I said, voice steady despite my shaking knees. And I'm done being underestimated. She snarled and lunged at me. Morpheus intercepted her, his sword meeting her blade with a clash of steel. They fought with brutal intensity, no finesse, just raw power and killing intent. He was better. Within seconds, he had her disarmed, his sword at her throat. Who sent you? he demanded. She spat blood at his feet. You think I'll betray my clan? I think, he said softly. You'll tell me everything if you want to live to see another sunrise. She laughed. Kill me. There are more coming. Dozens more. The river clans won't stop until the Moonfire heir is dead or returned to us. Why? I asked, stepping closer. Why do you want me so badly? Her eyes fixed on me, full of hatred. Because you're the key. The prophecy says Moonfire's return will unite the packs. We'll end the territorial wars. We'll bring peace. She sneered. We don't want peace. We want power. And you threaten that. So you tried to erase me as a child, I said. We paid good coin for those slavers, she agreed. Told them to kill you. But Vornek got greedy, kept you alive, sold us information instead. She smiled, ugly. When we found out you'd awakened, that the Alpha King had bonded with you, we knew we had to act fast. Morpheus's blade pressed harder. How many more are coming? Enough, she said. More than you can fight. I looked at Morpheus. Our eyes met. We can't stay here, I said. If they keep attacking, innocent people will die. I'm not running, he said. I'm not asking you to run, I replied. I'm asking you to end this, permanently. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You want to take the fight to them. I want to burn their war camp to the ground, I said. I want to show them exactly what happens when you threaten Moonfire. His smile was sharp and dangerous. I love when you talk like that. Despite everything, I felt heat rush to my cheeks. He turned back to the woman. Where is your camp? She pressed her lips together. Tell me, he said, or I hand you over to the people whose families you destroyed. I'm sure they'd love a few minutes alone with you. Her face paled. North Ridge. 2 days' ride. You'll never reach it without being seen. Watch us, I said. We rode out at midnight, just the two of us. Morpheus insisted on keeping the strike force small. We'd move faster, draw less attention. Selena had tried to stop us. This is madness, she said. You're walking into an enemy camp with no backup. We have each other, Morpheus replied. That's enough. He believed it. And somehow so did I. We rode hard through snow and darkness, the bond keeping us connected even when we couldn't speak. I felt his determination, his protectiveness, his absolute certainty that we would win this. On the second night, we reached the ridge. Below us, the River Clan war camp sprawled across a valley, hundreds of tents, fires burning, warriors moving between them. That's a small army, I breathed. Good, Morpheus said. It'll make a better message. We waited until the camp settled into sleep, until the fires burned low and the sentries grew drowsy. Then we moved. Morpheus went left, I went right. We'd planned this. Coordinated it. I raised my hands and let the moonfire flow. It poured from me in waves, silver white and beautiful and utterly terrifying. It didn't touch the tents or the sleeping warriors. Instead, it carved a ring around the entire camp, a wall of living flame 30 feet high. Shouts erupted. Warriors stumbled out of tents, weapons drawn, staring at the fire in horror. Morpheus appeared at the edge of the ring, sword drawn, backlit by moonfire. River clans, he called out, his voice amplified somehow. Magic, I realized, from the bond. You have attacked my fortress, threatened my mate, tried to steal what is mine. Silence fell. This ends tonight, he continued. You will withdraw your forces. You will cease all raids on our territory. You will return every slave you have taken, and you will swear fealty to Moonfire and Northkeep as allied houses. And if we refuse? A voice shouted from the crowd. Morpheus looked at me. I let the moonfire burn brighter, hotter. The wall of flame surged upward, towering over the camp. Then, Morpheus said softly, you burn. We stood there, united, powerful, absolute. The river clans knelt. One by one, they dropped to their knees, foreheads pressed to the snow, surrendering. We returned to the fortress 3 days later, exhausted and bloodstained but victorious. The entire fortress came out to greet us. Servants cheered. Guards saluted. Nobles bowed. Morpheus dismounted and turned to help me down. Our hands clasped. The bond sang. "We did it," I said. "You did it," he corrected. "I just watched you set the world on fire." I laughed, punchy with exhaustion and relief. "We're a good team." "The best," he agreed. He pulled me closer, right there in front of everyone, and kissed me. The crowd erupted in cheers. When we broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. "Marry me," he said. I blinked. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated. "Not because of the bond, not because of duty, because I love you, because you're the bravest, strongest, most incredible person I've ever known, because I want to spend the rest of my life earning the right to stand beside you." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "Yes. Yes. Yes," I said, laughing and crying. "Yes, I'll marry you." He kissed me again, harder this time, and the bond exploded between us, not with pain or compulsion, but with pure, radiant joy. Epilogue. 6 months later. The wedding was held in the courtyard where I'd once been whipped. We'd torn down the whipping post, built a garden in its place, planted moonflowers that glowed silver in the dark. I stood in that garden, wearing a gown of white and silver, my scar visible above the neckline, no longer hidden, but displayed proudly. Morpheus stood across from me, dressed in black and silver, his eyes bright with tears. "Karina of Moonfire," he said, voice steady despite the emotion. "You were stolen from me once. I spent 20 years searching for you. And now that I've found you, I promise, on my life, on my crown, on everything I am, that I will never let you go." "Morpheus of North Keep," I replied. "You found me in chains and set me free. You saw me when I was invisible. You loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. I promise, on my blood, on my power, on everything I've become, that I will stand beside you, always." Selena bound our hands with a silver cord. "By blood and bond," she intoned, "by magic and choice, I declare you mated, married, and bound for life." The crowd erupted. Morpheus pulled me into his arms and kissed me like he'd been dying to do it for hours. I kissed him back, tasting salt and joy and forever. When we broke apart, Moonfire sparked between us. Not wild or dangerous, but warm and welcoming. "Ready?" he murmured. "For what?" "The rest of our lives." I looked out at the crowd, at the freed slaves wearing fine clothes, at the nobles who'd learned to bow to a former servant, at Naren, crying happy tears, at the gardens growing where pain had once lived. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." Together we walked through the crowd, hand in hand, Alpha King and Moonfire Queen, no longer broken, no longer alone, finally home. The end. If Karina and Morpheus's journey resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite moment? Was it when Karina first awakened her Moonfire? The confrontation with Vornek? Or maybe that quiet scene where Morpheus read to Karina? If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button. It helps other fantasy romance lovers find this content. Drop a comment. I read every single one, and your feedback shapes future stories. Subscribe and ring the bell, so you never miss when I post new fantasy romances, villain redemptions, and magical love stories. Share with a friend who loves fantasy romance. They might need a new story to obsess over. Remember, like Karina, you're not defined by your past. You're defined by the choices you make today. Until next time, keep dreaming of magic and Moonfire.